Jedi Power Battles was released in the year 2000. The game takes place during The Phantom Menace and is one of many Episode 1 games. It's a beat-em-up and platformer. It was released on PlayStation, Dreamcast, and Game Boy Advance. Normally I wouldn't throw the Game Boy Advance in as they're usually different, but in this particular case they tried really hard to be very similar to the PlayStation and Dreamcast version. Despite them being very similar, they had huge differences. I'm going to take you through some of the differences and just talk about the game in general. I'm also going to be using this Prima guide that I have written in and added to throughout the years. Before we get started, feel free to like and subscribe. In both versions, there are 5 characters you can start off as. You start off with 1 bomb ability, 1 force ability, and 5 credits that are used as extra lives. The Game Boy Advance version has 3 characters. Darth Maul is the only unlockable one, and each person only has 1 power, and it seems to work at random. The game has jumps and double jumps for platforming, and a bunch of combos for attacks. The block button also lets you block, and if timed right, it will bounce a laser back into an enemy. Another cool thing in the Dreamcast version is you can see their first names in a Star Wars language. The PS1 just had them stand in a circle in the console room, which was still pretty cool. Characters include Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's the only Jedi apprentice you can play in this game. He wields a blue lightsaber and thermal detonators. His force powers are Saber Dash, Protection Bubble, and Force Thrust. He's the fastest character in the game. Qui-Gon Jinn, he's a Jedi Master who wields a green lightsaber and an electric detonator. His game abilities include Shockwave, Heal, and Force Burst. In the strategy guide, both his profile and Obi-Wan's mentions Xanatos, one of my favorite Star Wars characters, who someday I'll probably do a whole video about. Also, I didn't make up these power names, that's what the guide calls them. Mace Windu, Jedi Master who wields a blue lightsaber. I know it's weird, but at this time, it hadn't been decided Mace has purple, so in this game he has a blue lightsaber. He also has thermal detonators. His powers are a Saber Shield, Force Absorb, and Saber Throw. Adi Gallia, I believe I said that correct, but I could be wrong, is a Jedi Master who wields a crimson lightsaber. And I guess since it's crimson and not red, it's fine. She's not a Sith. She also has an energy shield. Her powers include Mesmerize, Piercing Gaze, and Force Cloak. Plo Koon is a character who I simply love just because of this game. Look at his style. Plo is slower than the others, but stronger. He has a stim pack, which isn't health, but it's a gold shocky thing in this game. He has Cyber Cyclone, Protection Bubble, and Electric Judgment. He also yells Cobra during attacks. Now we have unlockable characters. Battle Droid is a Dreamcast exclusive. He's got an electric detonator and a blaster, as well as melee moves. You cannot get past level 1 with him, so bring a second player if you want to beat level 1 with him. Padme and Panaka are really similar, both have detonators, blasters, and melee. They can honestly be pretty fun. Darth Maul has Thermal Detonator, Sith Shockwave, Protection Bubble, and Electric Judgment. Both him and Plo having Electric Judgment is interesting, as I guess this is a form of Sith Lightning. Ki-Adi-Mundi is a Dreamcast exclusive. He has a bluish-purple saber and electric detonators, Mesmerize, Force Cloak, and Saber Throw. He's one of the best characters to beat. His Saber Throw even has a slightly longer range than Mace Windu's. It basically controls the same but has different layouts for you. Biggest issue is this button is force power. But what the hell is this button? Well, on PlayStation 1 it's R2, in Dreamcast it's R. but they just expect you to know what it is. And if you change your controls to a different layout, then who knows what it is. You also jump with B or circle, so I don't really like that. Sound-wise, it really kind of sounds the same. The Game Boy Advance has its own soundtrack though. Level 1, the Trade Federation ship. As you can see here, it's a huge cosmetic and graphical difference, as well as having totally different lighting setup. Another difference is the PlayStation 1 version allows you to destroy computers, but the Dreamcast doesn't. That might be the only win for the PlayStation 1 because the Dreamcast fixed a lot of spots that were harder in the platforming sections. The conveyor belt no longer has gaps, or droids that shoot you on the gaps. This lightning isn't as deadly. These jumps now have rails you can use to hop on and off in case you miss. The level is overall a fun, good beginning to the game. Interesting things to note here are the destroyer droids, they don't have force fields. You fight a loader droid, and a vulture droid is the boss. Also, every level has power-ups in a different spot depending on the version. I won't go through all that, because that will take forever. And now here's a tiny look at some of the cosmetic differences throughout. Level 2, Swamps of Naboo. Both versions are basically the same. There isn't any drastic differences like in Level 1, just graphics are a bit better on the Dreamcast. The jumps are fixed a little on the Dreamcast. In this level, just a lot more fighting droids and platforming. It's another solid level. The final boss is a giant bug who shoots face torpedoes at you. Pro tip, hide behind Jar Jar, and he will take all the hits and will never die. In the Game Boy Advance version, you fight Tarkles instead. Before I continue on, let me say, even though I like these levels, this game will make you do a lot of grinding, specifically with every character. Level 3 is the City of Seed. Now in this one, you have to rescue 7 handmaidens. In both versions, there are 9, but the Dreamcast version also has other citizens that run around. Both versions look very close, but have minor differences, with the big differences being the colors of the tank, and the final boss's shield and lasers. Also, in the PlayStation 1 version you can destroy things, and in this one you can't. The layout of their little tank maze is also different. This level's one of the best, with optional riding a tank, destroying things, or just playing it on foot. Level 4 is Seed Palace. So here you can see big version changes again in terms of cosmetics. They also did some other changes, like make this jump easier, make the way to go more clear, and removing a really cheap jump. They also added small versions of the level 3 final boss in the Dreamcast version. The Queen is annoying, and you fight these large buff plasma droids at the end. Also, these grapple droids in this level look kinda cool, and maybe are the precursor to the Super Battle Droid. Solid level overall. Level 5, Tatooine. This level cosmetically looks similar. Biggest differences are the Sand People homes are different, and the hyperdrive looks different. Other than that, basically the same. Gameplay differences. Dreamcast has a spot where you fight a bunch of prequel probe droids. PS1 version doesn't have that. And Dreamcast covered the giant hole in the ground when you're fighting the dinosaur. This level has the Sarlacc, Darth Maul, and fighting Sand People, which is a cool change of pace. The cons of this though are you have to escort Anakin, but fortunately it's only for like a minute. This level's one of the best in my opinion. Love it a lot. Level 6 is Coruscant, and it's my favorite level in this game and my favorite planet in Star Wars. The level looks similar, but brighter. There are minor cosmetic changes, but nothing huge, mainly just brighter. You fight mercenaries in this level, and the bigger boys can knock you off ledges with uppercuts. The enemy variety here is probably at its best. The Dreamcast even adds another enemy, a stupid mercenary child who you can kill, and it's as close to killing a youngling as you're gonna get in this game. Now this level's really long. It takes 2 loading screens to get through, and no other level does. I don't know why so much work went into this level compared to the others. And as much as I love it, having to grind through this really long level over and over, it's a pain in the ass. It's even weirder because this is a glitchy level, sometimes game-breakingly so. The level has this weird moment where we witness the dumbest car accident ever. There's this spot with fans and this dude always dies in them. And this level also has this guy. Now the final boss is this Destro looking thug with a lot of martial arts and teleporting. He's a cool ass boss. Game Boy Advance version just has a taller version of one of the normal guys. Level 7, Ruins. So we're back to the swamps of Naboo. Everything cosmetically in both versions is the same, except this face. That's a Dreamcast exclusive. One thing I forgot to mention is enemy placement is slightly different depending on the version, but they're usually pretty close with each other. This level brings back plasma droids, and also introduces guns and evil flowers. The final boss is Tarples. This would be a solid level if the platforming wasn't awful here, and the fixed camera can cause you or your teammate to die a lot because of how awful it is. It's one of the weaker levels. On the Game Boy Advance version, it's much worse. The Game Boy Advance is so bad at platforming. Perhaps the worst platforming I've ever had. I died so many times here and couldn't make this jump. It took like 20 minutes. There was no way this was tested. And I almost gave up trying to even beat this fucking game. Because of this stupid spot. Like sometimes there was invisible walls holding me back, sometimes my double jump just wouldn't work in specific spots. The PlayStation and Dreamcast version are playable, but the Game Boy Advance version should never be played by anyone. Garbage game. Level 8, Streets of Theed. You ride on staps throughout the city and should be a minigame instead of a full level. The Game Boy Advance actually wins this time as a 2D side-scroller level, which I think plays better. So, okay, it gets a compliment from me. Level 9, the Palace Cliffs. This level says, what if we gave you a time limit and focused on the weakest part of gameplay, the platforming? It's so bad. It's so many cheap or stupid deaths come here. You gotta save 5 pilots, and there are 6. Each room has droids you fight to save them in. And that's the good part. The bad part is getting to those rooms, and it's stupid easy to die. Sometimes with it not even being your fault. The Game Boy Advance version doesn't have a time limit though, so I will give it a compliment again. That's good. And level 10 is Darth Maul himself. Basically the same with a slight cosmetic differences. However, there are changes. Darth Maul's way harder in the PlayStation version. The PlayStation version's puzzle is slightly harder too. Both versions have the same obnoxious jumps and fan destruction to progress. Which is interesting because this is the first level in the Dreamcast to let you destroy things. Just the fan controls though. This level is one of the weaker ones. It has frustrating platforming areas and sometimes game-breaking glitches, forcing you to restart the level over again. The Dreamcast does have a special little cutscene for Darth Maul's death though. The Game Boy Advance just has god-awful platforming here. Just like on level 7, often your double jump just won't work. and you need to be at the back of a jump to make it, but sometimes you need to be at the front of a platform to make the jump. And with this version, you never know where to stand for the jump without an insane amount of trial and error, because these areas are broken. Again, I thought I was gonna quit here, because I couldn't figure out how to make some jumps. A jump that in any other game would be easy. Where are the programmers' names in the Game Boy Advance credits? Did they hide them for their shame? There's no way these dudes tested the game. Now the PlayStation and Dreamcast have more afterward, but the Game Boy Advance does not. So, in the PlayStation version, there are a total of 4 bonus missions. The first is both on Dreamcast and PlayStation. And in it you play as the droid Tika, and you roll around racing the clock to kill pilots and some Jedis at the end. These next 3 are PlayStation exclusives. The Kundu race, where you tap buttons as fast as you can to move faster and win the race. And the ending of the race is interesting.
There they are. Get them.
Gun Roundup, in which you stab Jar Jar and force him to run to your bubble for points. Most points wins. Boss Nass is also there, sorta. And the last one is a mission where you fight 100 enemies with 1 life and only a few power-ups. It's honestly quite hard, and if you win, your only reward is you can play the game in a mode where lightsabers kill everything in 1 hit. But not bosses though. That's it for the PlayStation 1, but the Dreamcast has its own bonus content. So the Dreamcast has 7 training missions. These missions are annoying as hell, and harder than most, if anything, in the game. You'll have to beat all of them in a row to unlock Kyodai Mundi. I use Obi-Wan here because he's the fastest and speed matters here, as there's often time limits. First is platforming. Second is platforming with a time limit. Third is platforming with a time limit. Fourth is blocking lasers back into enemies till they're dead. Fifth is blocking lasers back into the enemies till they are dead, but on a smaller standing space and with a time limit. Sixth is destroying probe droids with a time limit. And 7, this one's a butt. It's hard platforming with a short time limit to kill every droid. The training modes are harder than the actual game, so I don't actually recommend playing them first. Once you finish it, the Dreamcast isn't done. You still have Versus mode. You can fight a friend as the Jedi, or as various characters in the game, including the Loader Droid, Sand People, the boss of Coruscant, his men, and many more. It's not a balanced fighter at all, but it is fun to play around in. As much as I love this game, it's got some huge flaws and game-breaking glitches, too much grinding and bad platforming, and the Game Boy Advance isn't even worth playing. The game starts strong, but gets far weaker in those last 3 levels. Despite its big flaws, the game is still good, and has unique powers, and the beat-em-up parts are fun. The combos are good, the levels are mainly good, and playing with a friend is a blast. You aren't gonna get a deep story or anything, but it's just good, mindless fun. Both the PlayStation and Dreamcast version are worth picking up. I recommend the Dreamcast one personally more. Thanks for watching. To see other Star Wars videos I've made, click here. To subscribe, click here. And to see other content in general I have, click here.